Who will the Bengals hire to replace Lou Anarumo as defensive coordinator? Names you need to know, thoughts on Robert Saleh and other big names that you've thought about, and the guy that I hope they go after, and it's someone that you haven't heard of. We'll get to that right now on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Hi again, everyone, and welcome into CBT. I'm James Rapien of BengalsTalk.com. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and do me a favor. Support our sponsor, Rivertown Inquiry. Rivertown Inquiry has been a loyal sponsor for multiple years now here on CBT, and they make awesome apparel, whether it is their whiskey glass, which I have promoted and discussed and drank out of plenty. I might have some today with the weather just staying so cold the whole time. Or if they're awesome hoodies, shirts, any Cincy apparel you're thinking of, they have it. So check them out at rivertowninquiry.com, or their two locations, one Findlay Market or the other one in Oakley. And let's dive in, because the Bengals defensive coordinator search is well underway. They've interviewed two candidates. My thoughts on them and who they interviewed in just a second. And then the guy that I really want them to take a look at. You can only do so much research on these defensive coordinators, but there's one guy that stands out based on what I've heard about him, who I've talked to, and his name coming up multiple times in league circles when asking, hey, who do you think the Bengals should look at? Who would you consider? And so I'll give you that name coming up in just a second. But before I do that, a quick update on Lou Anarumo. He's going to interview for the Colts defensive coordinator job next week. Tom Pelissero was the first to report the news. So good for Lou. Hope he gets a job. Hopefully he's back in the league. He's a good coach. And the reason why they moved on from Lou, a big part of it, and I talked about it on Enter the Jungle this week, is the player development side. And not that it's his job to develop these guys and refine their skill set completely. That's the position coach's job. But Lou didn't play Myles Murphy enough. Lou didn't play Jordan Battle early enough. Lou didn't play Dax Hill as a rookie and find a way to get him on the field. And I know that was a thing back then for the front office. And so when you do that and you're not playing these guys for whatever reason, and then you're not having success on the field either, well, then that's when this gets brought up. Hey, why is Sam out there as much as he is? Can't you get our first round pick out there? I know you want us to trade for pass rush help, but can't you get this guy out there? And I'm sure Lou was like us, like, hey, go get a pass rusher at the deadline for sure. And I think the front office was like, hey, how about you play 99? How about you find a way to utilize 58 a bit more and utilize the safety that we did draft in the third round that we thought would be a big impact guy. So that's what they're looking for. They're looking for someone that's going to get the most out of what they have and help them bring in what they need, good fits that's going to fit. And you want the visions to fit together. It's the bottom line. And so that's why when I hear these big names, which I'm going to get to in just a second, but first, the first two guys that they have interviewed, Patrick Graham, DeMarcus Covington. And you'll see those names. And Patrick Graham was the defensive coordinator for the Raiders over the past 3 seasons. Now, it was a holdover from the Josh McDaniels era and into the Antonio Pierce era. But his contract is up. They brought him in for an interview. I think that's a very real candidate. I do. And he could get it, but he could get the job there. I was watching on social media, Adam Butler really praised Graham, and he's held in pretty high regard in league circles. Obviously, he comes from the Belichick coaching tree, whether it's Bill Belichick, whether it's Brian Flores. He's worked with some really good defensive minds. So I think he's a very real candidate for this job and could be considered one of the favorites. So get to know Patrick Graham. I think it's fair to do that. That's why I say it. When I say real candidate, I'm not going to tell you to Google him and learn more about him if I don't think he's a real candidate. And for example, Robert Saleh. I don't think you need to do a bunch of research on him. I don't think he's coming to Cincinnati for a bunch of reasons. Dennis Allen, Brandon Staley. I don't think that those guys are going to be the next defensive coordinator of the Bengals. Maybe they are, but indications that I've heard are Dennis Allen isn't held in as high regard in NFL circles as I would say the fans look at him that way. I think fans hold him in higher regard. I think the NFL is kind of meh on Dennis Allen. Could be wrong. Maybe he ends up going somewhere and is going to kill it. I don't think that place is going to be Cincinnati. I do think that Robert Saleh is someone that I would call and I would be interested in. He's going to interview for multiple head coaching jobs, Jags and Raiders interested in him. San Francisco 49ers expect to offer him their defensive coordinator job that is open now. And he coached there, and that led to him getting the Jets head coaching job because he was successful there. I would still make the call. I would. I'm not sure if the Bengals will. I'm not sure if they have. I was told that they aren't expected to go that route by multiple people. But that doesn't mean that they won't. These things are very fluid, right? And who knows? Robert Saleh could be like, yeah, Cincinnati, I can work with that. I can work with the Miles Murphy and Trey Hendrickson and Logan Wilson and, insert whoever you want. But I don't foresee that happening. Now, other names to pay attention to, and Brandon Staley's in that same category, to be clear. But the guy I just research, talking with multiple people in the league and league circles, Tosh Lupoi. Does that name ring a bell? It probably doesn't. I'm not going to pretend like I knew Tosh Lupoi from Adam a few weeks ago, even though he was in Cleveland with the Browns a few years ago. So he's been in the division. He has NFL coaching experience. Right now, he's the Oregon defensive coordinator. And I was reading about him. And the reason I was reading about him is Dre Harris, BengalsTalk.com, wrote this 3 candidates to pay attention to. And Dre, former NFL player, has league ties. And so he mentions Tosh Lupoi. And it was the second time I had heard Lupoi's name. And I was like, all right, well, let me just look. And I'm reading what he said. And he said that they secured the second undefeated regular season, all of these things. But the thing that stood out to me isn't just what he did at Oregon, but spent 5 years at Alabama, developed a bunch of starters there, and he was calling plays for Alabama on Nick Saban's defense. So now you're talking about Saban, you're talking about Oregon that is all in on winning. And then I pulled up an interview of Tosh Lupoi, and I just heard him for a minute or two. And he's known for his maniacal work ethic. That's Dre Harris's words, not mine. And then in this interview, the first thing they ask is about his work ethic. So clearly that's something that people are aware of, that he just outworks everyone. I like that. I want that. I think that's where people are going to be surprised. Like the Bengals might go the college route. Al Golden is someone that they could go after. Certainly, he's coached in the Bengals organization before. Right now, he's the Notre Dame defensive coordinator. Personally, though, Tosh Lupoi just stands out because he's got that energy, the way he carries himself, all of the vibes around him, talking, and not just with Dre, multiple people in the league. Mention Tosh Lupoi, and you get the same answers, and they're good answers. And so that is a name to watch. That is someone I would bring in for an interview. I would be in on Tosh Lupoi. And I've learned a lot about him over the past 72 hours. But that is someone to know. If you want to get to know him a little bit, if you have 5 minutes, do a Google search. Check out YouTube with some of the interviews, just how he carries himself. And it's held in high regard. So Tosh Lupoi is certainly a name to know. Other names, the Bengals have also interviewed DeMarcus Covington. He was a 1-year defensive coordinator for the Patriots. Before that, was their defensive line coach. I think what would be interesting is if DeMarcus Covington came in as the D-line coach under Patrick Graham as the defensive coordinator. Both interviewed for the defensive coordinator job, but that happens a lot. That happens a lot where you interview for this, and then, hey, we would love to have you come be our D-line coach. So could happen. Either way, another name to know, I mentioned Al Golden. I think Matt Eberflus is one of those other big names. Not sure it would be him, but someone to know. Ultimately, though, the Bengals want a coach that's going to maximize what they do, not only in the division, but find the right fit. Find the right fit for their vision. And what I mean by that is if you draft Miles Murphy with the 28th overall pick and you have a vision for him, you make sure you carry out that vision. If you draft Dax Hill with the 31st overall pick and you have a vision for him, well, you carry out that vision. Even if it's week 8 and you have Jesse Bates and Von Bell on the roster, I think back to draft night and Jeff Hobson asked Zach Taylor, Dax Hill, could he play special teams? And he's like, we didn't draft him to play special teams. He's our first round pick. Well, Dax Hill didn't play much as a rookie. And so the plan in April needs to still be carried out in August, September, October, November. It just does. And so that is what you need to find. Tosh Lupoi, That would be my guy as of right now. There you go. That's a surprise to a lot of you, I know. Tosh Lupoi. Get to know his name. Who knows? Maybe they'll hire him. As of now, I haven't heard that they've brought him in for an interview or are going to try to bring him in for an interview. Obviously, Oregon season is over, so hopefully we hear about Tosh Lupoi in the near future. Today's video is brought to you by rivertowninquiry.com. Check them out today. And look, if there is breaking news, we're going to have you covered. We aren't going anywhere, Bengals fans. So please, please, please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. And for Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for watching Cincinnati Bengals Talk.